Thank you very much. Can everybody see my screen? Yes?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Good. Okay, well, hello everybody. Thanks very much for joining. Tonight, we're going to talk through the topic of handling price increases. You think your supplier base is under control. You think your budgets are protected for the current year, but bang, out of nowhere, you get a price increase or multiple price increases from your suppliers. So tonight, the objective of the session is to give you some tools to be able to handle these price increases effectively and deploy the right solution for your business. So I'm just going to flash up the agenda. So the first thing we're going to look at is when you receive a price increase, how does it make you feel? And how does it make you think? Second topic we'll look at, which is the main body of tonight's presentation, is what should you do about it when you receive a price increase? How do you respond? And then we'll wrap up at the end with the key takeaways. So firstly, if you could please in the chat, put yourself in the position of a buyer and you've received a price increase out of the blue from one of your trusted and long-standing suppliers. How do you feel about it? If you can put that in the chat, that would be great. Yeah, excellent. Angry, miffed, surprised, annoyed. No way, not going to happen. Fantastic. Really good. Disappointed is another one. So I think you've summed up how I would feel really well and unrealistic. And Christina says not again. Yeah, perfect. So having experienced this myself, I felt annoyed. I felt worried that my budget was going to be smashed to bits for that year. And I've also felt really disappointed and I've lost trust with that supplier. So it's not a good thing for a buyer to be receiving these price increases. So what I'm going to go on to next is what should you do about it? And now we're going to use a Mentimeter for this. So if you could have your mobile phone handy and go into www.menti.com and enter the code that you can see on the screen there. The question is, so how should you respond to a price increase? And let me know when you're in, or if anybody's having any difficulties with Menti, let me know.
Oh.
Yeah, need to talk.
Small now.
Very good. 0293.
Yeah, 2 answers come in so far. Did they discuss with supplier? Four we discuss with supplier. Anybody else? Or is that it?
Just one
Who
second.
hasn't? Oh, did you? Are you still going?
Yeah.
Anybody else hasn't managed to get in yet?
I'm done.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you. Excellent. Okay, so it's unanimous. You need to discuss with the supplier. Well, I think you're right, but I think there are also situations where the other two options might be relevant as well. So I'm going to talk through next about the various options that you have and when those might be applicable. So let's talk about option number one first, which was to simply reject the offer. And none of you actually said that this is the approach that you would follow, but there are a few circumstances where this might be appropriate. So I'm going to try and explain those to you now. So I think if you have a fixed price contract in place, I think rejection might be the first option that you follow, because otherwise, what's the point in the contract? Also, if you can switch suppliers easily, that might be another reason why you would simply reject the price increase request from the supplier. And also, if you don't want to set precedents for future price movements further down the road, could be another reason why you just simply reject. But there are risks associated with this, and I've tried to show them here. So one of the risks could be that the supplier may simply walk away from your business. If they're not making enough money on your business, they could just walk away if you reject their price increase request. And not only walk away, the supplier could go out of business entirely, and that could create havoc for your business and your supply chain. And the third risk is that if the price increase is widely known in the market and the supplier has come in for a reasonable price increase, if you just reject it, you could be deemed really unreasonable and it could do really bad damage to your relationship with the supplier. So the kind of typical conditions that would exist to pursue this option, if you had really dominant buyer power, you could possibly use this option. Or if there was lots and lots of supplier competition and indeed low switching costs to switch between supplier A or supplier B and supplier C. Okay, so that's looking at the option of pure rejection. If we now look at the next option, which is just agree the price increase, not one of my favorites, I have to say, and I'm delighted that none of you also put it down either. But there might be some rationale where you'd use this option. So, for example, if your relationship with that supplier is absolutely paramount, then you may decide to just agree the price increase. If there's a real risk to supply continuity, if you follow another option, you may well agree to the price increase. And the last point, if the supplier comes to you with some facts and data which can fully justify the increase they're seeking, you could just say, okay, we'll accept it. But again, like the last option, there are risks to consider here. So the risk with this one is precedent. If you agree to this price increase now without any discussion, what message does that give to the supplier? Okay, they may come after you in the future for the smallest of price movements on even things that are within their control. The other risk to watch out for is if the cost drivers, so how the input costs of their materials, how have they moved in relation to the price increase that they're asking from you. If their raw materials have gone up by 5% and they're asking for a 10% increase, then clearly agreeing the price increase without discussion is not a good option. And how have their input prices moved in the past? So, for example, if we think about oil, when it went down to $25 a barrel a couple of years ago at the start of the pandemic, did the supplier race to you then and offer you a price reduction? Did they? Okay, so if they didn't do that at that point, then it's very, very difficult for them to come with a rationale to ask you for an increase now. So the type of conditions here where you might follow this option is if there would be no or low competition, so it's a very, very tight market. If the supplier was really difficult and you had a strained relationship, and doing anything other than agreement might put that relationship and supply in jeopardy. And also if there are very high switching costs. If the cost of switching from supplier A to supplier B was higher than the price increase, then you probably wouldn't do it. So that's option 2. The last option, which unanimous, and that option I don't like at all, just agreeing it. It seems a bit of a cop-out. There's always a different way. And the last option, which is my preferred choice, and actually this must have been too easy a question because all 6 of you also selected this option, is discuss and understand. And I think this has some merit because in the first case, it really demonstrates goodwill, the fact that you're prepared to sit down, listen and discuss with your supplier. And also with those discussions, you can really understand those cost drivers and the needs of the supplier. It could be that the supplier has been making no money on your business for a number of years. And this latest round of inflation has been the straw that's broken the camel's back and they need to get that increase. And the third one is that sitting and discussing with someone gives you the opportunity to solve problems jointly. And it could be the case that you both come up with a mechanism that can take the emotion out of future price changes, both up and down, which has got to benefit both parties. The only risk that I could think of with this one is that if you signal to the supplier that you're prepared to discuss, in the supplier's perception, the supplier could read that, yeah, I've got this price increase through. It gives them the green light. But that's not the case. You can still reject the price increase even after the discussion. But it's all about managing expectations. So the kind of conditions that would prevail to adopt this proposal would be if you had a long-term collaborative relationship with your supplier that you wanted to protect. There's a high degree of mutual dependency between you and the supplier. You rely on each other a lot. And also if price alone is not the primary variable. So if your relationship with the supplier and the value they provided you was much more than just price, then you possibly would go for this option. Okay, so I'll just come on to wrapping up. So what have we learned and what are the takeaways that I'd like you to think about as we finish off here? So the first thing we learned was price increases don't make us feel very good. They're not personal, and we need to keep a very objective, cold ice in our veins to deal with them in an objective way and get the right result for our business. The second thing is that there are 3 immediate options to consider when you have a price increase. It's reject, it's accept, and it's discuss to understand. And when as you progress through these options, it's important to bear in mind the context, your specific context in your business. What's your relative market power? How important is that supplier relationship to your business? And what do you need to do to minimize the disruption and risk to your business? Those are what's going to guide your decision making. Okay, so I've got some additional resources here that I found. There's a blog and there's also a detailed article. The blog has a real retail focus, and it prepares sellers on a retail side to how they go into bat with their buyers. And then the McKinsey article is a really deep dive forensic analysis in the tools and techniques you can use to manage inflation. So if you enjoyed that, which I hope you did, it's part of my one-day cost reduction fundamentals course. Please have a look at my website and find out more. And if you'd like to contact me, please do so at the email there. Thanks very much. Have a good evening.